Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to our humble little TKU workshop here. So the first thing that we'll do is I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so y'all can see all the fun stuff I'm gonna show you. It's a business. Okay, so the first thing that y'all will want to look at is in the emails that I sent y'all, there is one link that is for this Chicago click-through guide. If you want to click on that first, that'll be the first thing that we look through. And this guide, honestly, I use it for every paper that I write. It is the easiest, quickest way to see all the formatting that you're going to be running into. It has a few things about the website that are pretty especially helpful, but one of the main things there is the tip sheets section here, this tip sheets tag. So as you can see, it has a bunch of different hyperlinks on it. So you're able to click through any of those to kind of figure out the formatting for that specific thing that you're looking for. So if you're writing your paper and you're just starting off from the very beginning, I don't know how to make a title page, you can literally just click on that title page link and it'll pull up the exact formatting for how that needs to look. Hey, Lena. And it'll also kind of give you a bit more exact information too. So you'll see like vaguely where on the piece of paper you want to have your title and all that good stuff. So usually, you know, a third of the way down on the piece of paper, that's where you want to have your title of the paper. You want to have it front and center. You want to have it bolded. And that's going to be a big theme, putting things centered and bolded. Pretty much any major piece of information, if it's a title or if it's the name of a section, you're going to have it centered and bolded. So we'll go over sections and all that stuff too. But then a little ways underneath that title, you're also going to put your name. So this information for us looks a tiny bit different, and I'll go into that. But you're just going to have your name. You're going to have the name of the class. You're going to put the number part and the letters part. And you're also going to have the full written out version of the class name. And then you're going to put the due date, not just the date that you're working on it or started working on it. You're always going to have the due date there. And then underneath that, you're also going to put the professor's name who's teaching the course and the King's University. That just kind of labels it as a TKU paper, basically. So there's your basics for just formatting a title page. And then the other major thing that you're going to be using, you're going to use really three major things from this list here. You're going to need that title page. And then the second main one that you're probably going to use is this sections and subheads. So sections and subheadings, I love them. They pretty much just help break down your paper visually for whoever's looking at the information that you have. So in general, just even how we feel with looking at textbooks, it is much more difficult to process information when there's just a giant blob of words. There's no breaking up, there's no formatting, it's just information being thrown at you, and no one receives that information well. It's a lot harder to understand. So what we can do to help our readers better understand our information is find ways to file it and kind of section it out so that it makes more sense. So if I'm going to have three major ideas that I'm going to be talking about in my paper, I'm going to want a subheading or a section to show what those ideas are. That way, even if you're just flipping through my paper and all you see is that bold heading, then you're going to know, oh, okay, she's talking about the history of language, and she's going to mention the start of language, why it's important, and how we use it today. And in those section headings is where I would put that information. And it's just easier to see, easier to find, all the good stuff. And then the last main thing you'll need here is the bibliography. So with pretty much all of your papers, unless your professor specifically says so, you're going to have a bibliography. And this is basically just a place where we're able to see what are all the sources, what are all the other academic papers or journals that you use to help build your ideas in this paper. So here we can see what the formatting for that looks like as well. And again, like I said, the centered and bold, you're gonna see that with pretty much every major thing that you're breaking down. You're gonna have it centered, you're gonna have it bold. And then for the bibliography, you're gonna have things, what's it called? Yes, it's not going to be double spaced. So this is one thing that can get like a little tricky. It's not double spaced. You have single space for whatever actual information itself. There we go. And then after whatever like specific entry of information, you'll put a space and then you'll have the rest there. So that's just one little thing with the formatting there. And pretty much those are going to be like the main things that you're going to hit. You're going to have your title page, you're going to have your sections to break up your information, and you're going to have your bibliography. And anything else that you might need outside of that is also on this lovely website here. So definitely pay close attention to it. Any questions on all of this so far? I know it's a lot and it's not necessarily exciting. Okay, cool.
Is this under the Turabian manual writers?
Yes.
What was the question? Sorry.
So it's under the Turabian manual for writers, and it's in the tip sheets right there, that tip sheets button. And anyone that's online, also feel free to just stop me and ask questions if you have anything. I might not see the question immediately, but I'll get to it. So that's kind of our basics for, yes.
This isn't a question, but I'm like blown away that the date on your paper is the due date.
I did not know
Yeah.
that either.
I always did it the other way around, but then I realized, one, you're gonna have very inconsistent dates.
Yeah.
So you could have started working on this paper like 3 months ago and it's not due until June or something. And then it's just confusing, like when is this actual due date for the paper went
That
to buy?
makes so much sense.
Yes, right? It's
Mind
easier.
blown. Amazing.
Yes, it works out well. Liz, I see you have a question. Go ahead.
Yes, I have a question on like citing the Bible. So is that required? I've seen some people do it and some people not. What is your take?
Yes, so you definitely want to cite the Bible. I will say this many times in this whole time, but anything that you are saying that is not your own words, anything that's even just an idea that was not originally your own, that you just came up with by yourself, the Lord spoke to you or something, it's going to be cited because chances are you got it from a book, you got it from a person, you got it from the Bible. Regardless, you're going to cite it. So you definitely will cite it. And I will say the easiest way to cite the Bible is to pretty much just use quotations with it. It's a lot easier to just, like, if I was citing it, I would start the sentence with, as Genesis 1 verse 2 says, blah, blah, blah. And I'll put my quotation marks around it. It's a lot easier than trying to do like other phrasings with it. I've just found that to be the simplest way to cite the Bible. And then you can also, usually I'd put a footnote there after my quote, and then underneath there, I'll just stick with the same version of the Bible for the whole paper. And I'll just put there like all translations or all versions, all verses taken from like Tree of Life Bible or whatever version I'm using. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Also, wait, how does it look like on a bibliography? I know footnote's different, but
Yes. So I will double check it, but I don't think you'd put it in the bibliography.
okay, perfect.
Yeah. So it won't go in the bibliography, only, I think that's literally the only source you'll use that works like that. Every other like journal, paper, dissertation, anything else that you're using, it will be in the bibliography as well. So good question.
Cool. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yep. Online people are also shocked by the due date thing. That is a big thing. But yeah, so actually that can kind of transition us into the citation part of this website, which honestly, this is like my go-to that I use it for more than anything else. If it loads, come on, buddy. There we go. So with citations, you're going to be asked to cite things in two main ways. Either they're going to tell you parenthetical citations, which literally just means that you're going to use parentheses, and you're going to use the author's last name and the date. So if they're saying parenthetical citations, it just means in parentheses, you're going to have, like if you're quoting C.S. Lewis, you're going to have Lewis whatever date the book was written in, and you're gonna have comma, the page number that you're using. So, and then that'll all be inside your little parentheses. So if they're saying in text, parenthetical, anything like that, that's what they mean. And then the main thing that you're gonna be using is notes and bibliography. So research papers, most just like random reflection papers and stuff, you're gonna be using this right here. And the beautiful thing about this website is it takes you through all three versions of how you're gonna list your information that you used. So I know it can look a little confusing at first. It took me a minute to understand all of it. But basically, with citations, the first time that you use a footnote from a source, let's say I'm quoting C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. Let's say that's what I'm using. So I would put, oh, hey, gonna soon come in. So I would put the whole citation, all the long thing, and we'll go over that. But since it's a book, this would be my formatting for it. So I would go through and I would put the first name, the last name, name of the book, place where it was published, name of the publisher, all of it down. And then the next time, let's say, or later on in this paper, I also, again, use that same book from Mere Christianity. Let's say it's still C.S. Lewis that I'm using, but I just maybe used him like a couple pages in later on. For that second time that I use him, I only have to do this shortened version of the note. So this is great for, it's not always as like tedious for books because it's a little bit easier, but if you're using like journal articles or other things like that, it is useful. Okay.
So you don't actually write the word page, you just put the number?
Yes,
Okay.
that is also correct too. That's a good observation. So I know we're kind of trained with MLA more to put like P period and then you put whatever number. With Turabian, you do not do that at all. So it's always just going to be comma, the number itself of the page. And that's just like how that's ordered. Any questions on this so far? Yes.
That's what goes in the footnotes.
Yes. So the first time that you quote a source, this is what's going to go in the footnote, this whole long one. And then the second time you use that same source, this is what would go in the next one. So, sorry. And basically how I break down citation is the easiest way to remember it is you're just going to have name of the person, name of the thing, whatever it is, and name the place where you got it from. So for a book, that means put in the publisher's information, put in the city where it was published, give me the date, you know, all that information. For a journal article though, which is another thing that you're going to be asked to do a lot, is get academic scholarly journal articles. And we'll kind of go through that as well. But for a journal article, the where that it's published is really just what's the name of the journal that it came from. So we'll add that information there as well. You'll also notice with books, we keep the titles of the book itself. It's always going to be in italics. So no matter what kind of book we're using, if it is from a book, we're going to put it in italics, which is also why you might notice down in the journal article, the journal article magazine name is in italics. That's why, because it's basically like the book where we got this information from. So going back to the book itself. And you can also see with this example right here, yes, go ahead.
Someone online is asking when you use IBID
Oh,
versus the
an
short
excellent
version.
question. Yes. So you'd use IBID if you're getting information from the same page right back to back. So let's say this is my paragraph right here that I'm writing. And let's say after this sentence, I have a footnote. And after this sentence, I also have a footnote. Maybe it's 2 different pages or something like that. Then since it's right back to back, you could use IBID there and you would just include the page number that you're using. So it would just be IBID, period, comma, number of the page. Yep.
Okay, so just because I'm a little bit still confused about
You're
IBID,
good.
do you use it like, let's say if I'm using the same exact book, like as my next source, like I always use it where even if it's like a different part of the book, I still use
Yes.
IBID and that page number.
Yes, if it's all on the same page, really.
So
That's the
only
thing with
if it's
IBID.
on the same
If it's
page?
on the same page, otherwise you would use a shortened note because we need to know where the IBID is. Otherwise, let's say you had like one citation from this one on this page, let's say on page 3, you might be using the same book, but if you've been citing other things in between, how are we supposed to know where the IBID is? Like from, basically, does that make sense?
Same
Yeah.
page of the paper, correct, not the same page of the
Yeah.
book.
What does IBID mean? Same page on the paper?
I don't know the exact Latin meaning of it, but it's basically just like, this is the same thing. Oh, no, it's just the word IBID.
So I saw someone online, they asked about like quoting your own.
Okay. Yes. So if you're quoting your, okay, first, before we move on to that, because that's a bit of a separate section, any other questions on IBID? Does this make sense to you? Go ahead.
So if you've got a footnote and then the very next footnote is the same thing but a different page, can you do like IBID comma the other
Yes,
page?
if it's on the same page. So actually, oh wait,
The same page of the paper you're writing, not the
Yeah,
same.
of the
paper
paper
you're
you're
writing.
writing. Yeah.
Page of the book.
so I'm just gonna use an actual hard copy example here. So this is gonna be easier. All right, so let's say this is my paper here, right? We got all our bunch of different paragraphs and all that good stuff. Let's say on this piece of this paragraph, I quote Mere Christianity. And then down later on this piece, I also quote Mere Christianity. If I didn't use any other books in between those two, then I would put IBID. But if I'm quoting Mere Christianity, let's say a textbook, and then Mere Christianity, you would need to do the shortened note if you've put the long version of Mere Christianity. Does that make any more sense? Okay, yes.
I have one more question.
Good.
So say like we have Mere Christianity,
Mhm.
Mere Christianity.
Yep.
Mere Christianity. We
Yes.
can continue to use
We can
IBID because there's
continue.
nothing in between.
Yes, exactly. Pretty much, if it's unbroken and you're just using one source, you can use IBID. But the second you're introducing a new source, you need to do the full length quote the first time you use that source, and then you can do the short note the next time you use it. Yes.
If you're taking the same information from the book and it's on the
Mhm.
same page, can you just write IBID? You don't have to write the page number if it's the same page number.
Okay, yes, yes, yes. Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on IBID specifically? Okay. Or no, you had a question.
No, you got
Okay,
it.
cool. All right, awesome. And just in case anyone does need to leave the meeting, either online or in person, this is being recorded. We can send it to you later. So going to that question of quoting yourself. So you would quote yourself. Again, it's the same basic pieces of information that you're using.
Somebody had a question online, is IBID in italic?
That's a good question. It would not be in italics, normal case. Anything else on that? Okay, online people, I didn't check with y'all. Any other questions on IBID specifically? Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so for quoting yourself, again, you're gonna be using the same pieces of information. It's just where you're filing that information that will change. So you're still gonna have name of the person that did it. If it's you, then you just put your own name. You're gonna have name of the article, name of the book, name of whatever it is. And then you're just gonna put the date in which it was written. So you pretty much, you put as much information as you're able to put down. So if it's your own work, the most information we have is it's from you. We know the title of your paper and we know what date you wrote it. And then we can still put page number as usual, like when we cite anything else. Does that make sense all around?
Are you saying like if you're citing yourself from another paper or another?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, yes, I'll clarify that. You can plagiarize yourself, which is super fun. And I don't know why that's a thing, but it is. So you can plagiarize yourself if you use, for example, if I wrote a paper on biblical counseling and later on in my degree, I'm using my ideas from that paper to kind of like lay the foundation for that other paper, I still have to cite myself at some point. Yeah, yes.
I'll also say this resource has like a ton of really specific citations. So if you like don't know how to cite it specifically, like this has basically everything. I think it actually has like quoting yourself in there.
Yeah, and if not, also a ton of other universities use the same format. So if you've had the question someone else has, you can Google it, you can look up how to cite myself in Turabian format. And kind of, it's a bit of an averaging game. You just look at a few different websites and see what they're doing and pick the one that seems to be the most used. And that's in general. If there is something that is not on here that you can't find, that'll be the way to go. All right. Any other questions so far? Okay, cool. So,
Sorry.
yes, go for it.
So usually, well, not usually, but like I have like maybe 1 or 2 times cited myself from a discussion board that I've done. How would I cite that?
So that's an excellent question, actually. So you would cite it.
Can you repeat the question so online?
Yes. So if you have used like a quote from your own discussion board in a paper, how do you cite it? Or how do you cite your own discussion boards, basically? So for that, you can go to the way bottom of this page. Yes. I don't know how to have that example. But you would basically go with this one right here. We're not gonna look at that top one because that's spicy. Let's go with that. There we go. So basically, again, you put the name of the thing that you're citing. So it would be like, let's say it would be Janae Contreras, comma, since it's kind of like an article that you wrote, it's not a full paper. So we would use the same idea of an article's citing. So we would do quotation marks around it instead of putting it in italics. And you could put there like discussion board 1, wherever it is. And we actually do have the place where it originated from. We know the class name and we know it's from TKU. So you could put there, instead of New York Times, it would be, BIBT 1304, Christian Worldview, the King's University, and then you would put the dates of whatever discussion board that was. Yeah, and then I don't think you need to put a URL because it's not a full article. And no, Blackboard's weird. No, so that would be the information that you would put. Yeah.
In other words, if you can't cite it, then don't write it. Is that what you're saying? Like
Yeah,
if you can't
but
remember
there's-
where you got it or where you,
Yes.
yeah.
Then that's where you just, in the writing process itself, you need to be very careful with making sure you're knowing where you're getting your information. So as you're going through with, honestly, the easiest way is as you're like kind of looking at sources for your paper, just make a Google Doc, Word doc, whatever you use, Pages, make a document somewhere where you can start copying and pasting the sources that you know you're going to use, and then just put like a little blurb of how you think you're going to use it. So if I'm writing like a counseling article and I got something from a psychology medical journal or something, this basically just talks about how the brain works, and I'm going to use it to tie in with this point. That way you can have more of an idea from your own thoughts of here's where I was going with things, and here is where I was going to use this information. Does that make sense? Okay. Cool. Yeah. And let me see. That's, again, the beauty of this whole site. It takes you through a whole ton of those sorts of things. And the other major thing that I want us to look at today is how to make an outline, because that is pretty much what I was saying, just copy and pasting your link somewhere. That would be a very unofficial form of making an outline. But the easiest thing to do will be to make a full outline. There we go. And you all do have handouts here. So this Grammarly article one, and all our online folks, we have that there as well for y'all. But basically this article takes you through the basics of how you write an outline, what you want like your major points to be, and how it should be formatted. And I can't stress enough how important making an outline can be, because especially with all the information that we're constantly taking in from classes, from other resources, from all of the research, it's a lot. And if we're not putting it down somewhere specific, it can be very difficult to kind of keep track of. So outlines help you to just map out what it is you actually plan to do with your paper, map out your resources, and also kind of helps you work out any chinks. Like if you see actually the point where I'm going with, it doesn't make sense, I need to redo that. That's where it's easiest to kind of see if there's any little things that you might need to switch up your viewpoint on. And this article is actually perfect also for learning how to cite, because if we look at this, we have, this one is like my favorite for this, but we have a very clearly written title. We have very clearly on our first page who wrote this, when they wrote it, when it was last updated. That's, again, the main pieces of information that you need, especially if you're citing something from a website. That's the main pieces of information that you're going to be needing. Also, when you're using websites, really try to stick to things that only end in .org, .edu, .gov. Usually a .com website just isn't as reputable. It could just be a random blog. It could look nice, but I'm never going to cite Grammarly in an academic paper. I'm never going to cite Wikipedia in an academic paper. But you can use those sources to kind of help give you an idea of maybe a certain definition. I end up doing that a lot, especially with the paper that we write. We're breaking down a lot of very big topics. So if I need just like simple definitions of something, like if I'm writing on a specific psychology thing, I'll just look up like so-and-so easy definition to help me get like a basic understanding of here's what I'm actually writing about. And then I'll kind of go on in my research. Any questions on any of that so far? Good. Oh, yeah.
Question. I'm sure you already covered this, but how you said on this document, for example, you have the title, the name, the date when it was updated. Where would you find the date where it's created? That modified date versus that
Yeah.
access date?
So that is where, again, you put the information that you can put. So the best date that we have for anything pertaining to this article is September 26th, 2022. So if I'm citing this, I would put September 26th, 2022. Otherwise, that's usually the easiest place to put it. Some websites though, like if I was citing this website, this does not have anywhere a clearly written, we don't see a specific person's name, we don't see a specific date, but what we do have is we have a title of what we can call our article, which is this creating an outline. We know where it's from. It's from Indiana University of Pennsylvania. And we know from the end here what the copyright date of the website itself is. So if we don't have a specific date, use the copyright date because it's the closest thing that we have. Again, it's just about putting the information that you do have. Sometimes it's not easily accessible, but we just put the next best thing if we can't find the official thing that we normally put. Sorry. And then, yes, so I'm gonna take y'all through one more kind of bigger thing. Let me see, she's not sharing. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen real quick here. And share this. So sometimes with your professors, when they're giving you the information for the assignment, they might say, I don't need a title page for this, or they might not be super clear with it. Either way, you can use this example right here. So this is just, again, if they don't say specifically, this is the title page that I want you to do, this will still give you the same information, so you're covered, bases are covered. So you're gonna have your name, same thing, course code, name of the course, professor name, month, day, year that the paper is due by, and King's University. And then you'd go straight into just the title of your paper and go on with your writing. So this whole website does have a good, or website, this whole document has a good bit of just information on the formatting, very technical parts of things. So like using 12-point font, keeping everything double spaced, all that fun stuff. And it does also have some example footnotes. And again, the thing with footnotes, it's a lot easier than we make it out to be. Just put the name of the person, put the name of the thing that you're citing, and put where you found it. All that information, it's just 3 chunks of information that we need. And then we just put our numbers that we got the information from. So it doesn't have to be as hard as it feels like it is. And yeah, that's the major stuff there. Yes, that was the last thing. So the last thing for sure that I want to show y'all is how to do the actual footnote itself. So thankfully, you don't always have to go about this a super hard way. If you have a Dell laptop or anything that isn't a Mac, then you can literally just do Control-Alt-F and you can see it immediately pops up a little number 1 at the bottom of the page. So it's a lot easier than literally any other form of trying to make that work. And so a couple things with formatting the footnote itself. So you can see it kind of just pops itself down into the corner. As we can see from our example underneath here, we want that to be tabbed over 1. And here's where we would start writing in, you know, information for our footnote. And you can also see, once I start typing, this is not the same font as everything else. So you do always have to go back. You have to highlight it. You have to make sure that it is in Times New Roman. And you can keep it at 10-point font, especially if you're using a lot of footnotes for your paper. 10-point font is good. It doesn't take up as much space. And as you can see, also, you'll put a space in between each footnote too. So instead of having it all just right back to back, you're gonna have a space there. And any information that you have after the footnote itself will go on the kind of second line. So that's kind of the basics there. If you have a Mac, the keyboard shortcut is Command-Alt-F. So same thing. And then just real quick, just to go over like the differences between footnotes and bibliography and why you need footnotes to start with. So footnotes basically just give us a little mini list of here's what contributed to this page specifically of your paper. And then at the end, we got our final tally of here's everything that contributed to this paper. So one just basically gives us like a little snapshot versus our whole massive list of what we used. And you can see it's very similar, bibliography entries and footnotes. Your main differences are you're gonna separate things out with footnotes, you're gonna separate things out with periods instead of commas. Oh yes, got it.
Someone online asked, when do we use the published date opposed to the access date?
So you're always going to want to use the published date. That will always be the first thing that you list there. You can also add in the access date. If you look on the Turabian tip sheets website, then you can see there for the journal articles, some of them do have like an access date showing there as well. But the main thing you're going to want is the published date of the actual article.
So use the published date when it is provided, but access date is not.
Pretty much, yeah. If you can't find a date anywhere on it, then you can use access date. But again, if nothing else, you can always just use the copyright date of the website itself. So you should always have a published date somewhere located.
And then also, so on yours, it's the bibliography is on the side.
Yes.
Okay, so because just sometimes mine would be in the middle, so I just wanted to make sure it's always on the side, right?
Yes, it should always, basically it'll always look like this. And this is actually one of those little differences between like footnotes and bibliography entries. For footnotes, you have the second line is longer, basically. You don't have that tab there. And instead, this first line is tabbed over. For footnotes, it's the opposite. So if we look up to our little footnote, we can see this first line is what's tabbed over and the second line is out longer. So there's that difference. You can also see everything here is separated with little commas. Pretty much wherever we would put a comma for the footnote is where we're going to put a period for the bibliography. And you're also going to switch the order of the names. So it'll be last name, first name, instead of over here where we have first name, last name. And yeah, also alphabetical order, very important. Make sure that all your sources are listed alphabetically.
By name or like by the title of the book or?
By name, by author's last name. That's a good question. So if this first person that wrote it was Collins and then my next guy was like Decker or something, it would be Collins would be listed first, Decker would be second. Okay, any questions on any of that? Yes.
You probably already said this again. Would we be able to get a copy of
Yes.
Showing us here.
So you did get, let me see, if you were signed up, then you would have gotten one of these things. That just scared me. If you didn't get one of these copies emailed to you or a hard copy, then let us know after and we can get you some.
I got it. Yeah, I just saw my email. Thank you.
Okay, perfect, yeah. And also, just because I might as well do a plug, since I have you here, we offer tutoring and we can help you with paper writing in the Student Success Center. So Anna actually is our amazing new student tutor as well. So we can both help you out if you just need to brainstorm topics. Honestly, a lot of what we do is just helping you put together a good outline so that you have a good goal in mind for when you go and write your papers. And we also have TutorMe, or Peer Deck they're called now, and they are able to actually proofread your papers, and it's a pretty quick turnaround. So if you ever need to have your paper proofread, TutorMe. If you need actual help kind of getting you to the proofreading stage, let us know, we can help you out. But otherwise, that is all that I had for you all today. Yes.
How would you cite a video game? Like if
very
I'm
specific.
quoting something from,
Yeah. If you're quoting from a video game, then I would treat it the same as a website content, either website content or audiovisual content. So for that, I would probably put, let's see. I know for like, if it's a TV show that I'm quoting, because of course I know this. You put the name of like the writers of the script for that specific episode. So I imagine you would just put the writers for the game. That would go in the first slot. And then the next thing would be like the closest thing to the title of the game that you have, or if there was like a specific episode of the game or something that you were playing. I don't know quite how it is. And then you would put name of the game, date that it was made.
okay, would that be italic or quotes?
So the name of the game itself would be in italics. The name of, like, I got it from this, you know, chapter of the game or something would be in quotation marks. Yes. Oh, okay, I thought I had a question. No, you're good. Go ahead. You're good.
Our title page is required, not required.
They will, for the most part, be required. Very, very rarely your professor will say, I don't need a title page with this.
So just
But
assume.
yes, to be on the safe side, I'll always just ask whenever they're mentioning a paper in class, do you want a title page, bibliography, like the works with it, or how much are you looking for, really? Yeah.
Someone is asking if a YouTube video would go under audio visual content.
Yes, YouTube video is audio visual, so is lecture videos. So if you're using lecture videos or you just found a motivational speaker that you think kind of fits with what you're writing about, that would be under audio visual content.
Basically,
Yes.
the footnotes are to steer somebody to the location, so if they wanted to find the information, they would be able to.
Exactly, it's part that, so in case anyone online didn't hear, basically the whole purpose of footnotes is just to steer people to the information that we're using. So if anyone either likes that quote or they see this is something that I could afford to learn more about, they have all the information they need to go and find that. And it's also just about respect and giving credit where credit's due. Whoever made that YouTube video or article that we're working on, or book, whatever it is, they put a lot of time, effort, and energy into making it to where we can now actually see their finished work. So it would be a disservice to just use their information and ignore the fact that they were the ones that gave us the idea in the first place. So it's just a matter of respect. And I'll usually, if I'm like kind of on the fence of, do I really need to cite that or not? Or how much is like my paraphrasing, how much did I actually quote there? Then I just go with, if someone else, if this is my idea and I see someone else using it, would I be like, hey, I actually gave that to you? Or is that something that I'd be like, oh, no, that's all you, you're fine. So it kind of helps a little bit with that. But yes, all right, yes.
One more question. For page numbers, there isn't anything
Yes.
specific, right? It's literally just like 1, 2, 3.
Yep, so it's pretty straightforward, and actually, I can show you that on the Word doc real quick. So I know where to find it in Word. I don't know where to find it necessarily everywhere else, but if you can't find it from me, Google it, and it'll work. But usually it's just in the insert place, and you'll just go over to the header and page number. There we go. And you'll just click page number. All of our page numbers are always at the top of the page, and it's always in the top top right corner. So for Word, it's always plain number 3. It's different on Google Docs or whatever. And then also like if you have a title page, then you would just click different first page. You can see the little number goes away. But now if I look down on page 2, there's a number there. And also with that, this is just because I'm slightly neurotic. Make sure that you're using the same font and the same size, because it looks pretty overall and it works better. But yes. Awesome. All right, thank y'all for coming.